Welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. And now more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange. Now, all this week, we're turning up the heat. We're staying with this story from The Hague to maize scandals, oil scandals, the Grand Coalition. We're not going to let this story go. And my guest today, for a long time, a lot of people thought he was really quiet, almost dropped off the radar. This past weekend, he came out guns blazing, which was a big surprise because not only is he part of the ODM Pentagon, he was considered top among the leadership of the ODM, and a minister, no doubt, speaking against one of their own, calling for the president and the prime minister to sack anyone involved in corruption. Why the sudden outburst? We want to find out. Is this just a case of, yes, let's call a spade, let's move on, it's time to get this country back in order? And people from the ODM have to be as accountable as people at PNU. My guest today, Member of Parliament from Vita, member of the Pentagon, Minister for Tourism, young Najib Balala. Washimiwa, good to see you. And it's good to finally see someone speaking out, because for a long time, people speaking out are journalists, the church, human rights groups. The coalition government has been very silent, especially about the scandals. This past weekend, you came out guns blazing. Why?
We call a spade. And I think we need to lead from the front. And when we talk about, I remember in 2002, when we took up as government in NAC, the public arrested the policeman taking bribe from the Matatu people, or from the public, or from conductors or drivers. And the people told us, we are serious, we are starting, you lead us. We let them down.
Yeah.
And it's easy to solve the petty corruption through attitude change, but it's hard to solve grand corruption when the leadership with the private sector, the political class and the business class cahoot together to actually siphon taxpayers' money and also mismanage the country. And I thought it's time. I lied low in the last 10 months. Not for anything, but I thought this country has gone through so much of trauma. There is so much politicking. Let me do my job. And that's exactly what I did. If it's tourism, I brought it back on track. We are doing much better than we were a year ago. But I thought it's time now to show leadership.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, let's call a spade a spade. I'm not corrupt. I don't want to be branded in a government that is corrupt. But how do we cleanse ourselves? Is by leadership, by taking action on this grand corruption.
This is very strange, Weshimu, and a very unusual move, because it seems like the rest of ODM is rallying around agriculture, embattled Agriculture Minister William Ruto. They're saying, look, let's give him a chance, or let's hang in there with him to see how long he will last, because there is a censure motion in Parliament that's going to be moved any day now. They are still supporting their man. They're standing by their man. But you stood out and said, no, let's call him out. If he's wrong, let's call him out.
Ruto is a good leader. Ruto is a good manager. Ruto is a dear brother of mine. Yeah? I believe let's exercise the rule of law. Let's do thorough investigation. Let's bring the facts on the table and take action thereafter. But we are dragging the issue so much. We are playing in gimmicks and a roundabout. So that's why it's time for leading from the front.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, either you will succeed. This can go two ways. You will be successful and you'll get a lot of support, or you will be isolated even further.
Unfortunate. It doesn't matter to me. As far as we do the right things. My objective of being in Parliament and being in government is to bring change. And always I said, we want to deliver change of system of government, not just change of individuals. And this is my conscience which is calling, that we need to change a system of government that is responsive and actually being proactive in developing this country, rather of just reactive or just perpetuating the status quo and for the few to benefit. And this is the thing that we need to start thinking. I've always called about generational change for this country. It's time to have generational change. It's time to have ideological changes that needs to bring change for this country for the better. It has become like a big lie when you talk about change in this country. My worry is that we should not lose sight this is our country, we have no other country. We will not bring angels from the sky, but we need to push for a few individuals who will stand up and bring that change. And it has to put from being a role model, track record, your behavior. The only problem, and when I sat at the KICC talking about the Kenya we want, I said, we know exactly what we want. We need to resolve it consciously and say, it's time to come out from our ethnicity, our politics of deceit, yeah, our greed. We have no limits to greed, yeah, and about manipulation and just. That's why everybody says we want the presidency, because they believe that the presidency will only work for them as priority. The rest of Kenya is as secondary. And these are the things that people want the political class to resolve consciously and be able to start telling the people what they should be doing.
Mheshimiwa, you must be very disappointed with this grand coalition. Barely a year old, everybody seems to be campaigning for 2012. Even with this past vote, this past Friday, with the Hague option and not the local tribunal, certain individuals are obviously being pushed aside to make way for those who are running for 2012. Isn't that disappointing?
That's why I said I lied low over the last 10 months, because I thought we went through a trauma. We need to concentrate and help our people. They're languishing in poverty. Life is very expensive down there for the local people, in the grassroots. What are we doing for the people? Now we have turned this year, 2009, to be the year of campaigning. And that's why the danger of branding people corrupt is actually also could be taken as to want to sideline. That's why I said the rule of law has to come up, so it can define what is maligning individuals and sidelining them, and what is the facts of addressing the issue of corruption. Secondly, the campaign for 2012 has started, and has started through the political parties' realignment. And as we have been told, it was not really elections. They were actually selections. And we have seen it in all political parties. It is disappointing. If we don't believe in democracy per se as a culture, and we want to pretend to be democratic, there is where the conflict comes in. And it shows very clear that ours is just to go and grab power and not to serve the people. Yeah. For me, my objective is totally different. I want to serve the people. It doesn't matter what position, as far as they can contribute positively, together as a team, and we are many Kenyans, want to bring change for this country for the better of our people.
There are some of your critics, Mheshimiwa, who say the reason why you lay so low is because you suddenly found out through some means that you may be on that wacky secret list. What do you tell? Is that malicious rumors?
Well, my conscience is very clear about my role in participation of upholding democracy. I'm not in the wacky list, fortunately. But there are two things. There are people who have stood up to uphold democracy and participated in protest, which is political process. Then there are people who have participated in a criminal process. And there were two actors here. There were the people and there was the state. And when the two of them quarreled and they went head on, I think everybody reacted. But yes, there are people in both sides who action needs to be taken, legal and criminal action, but not out of the context of the politics at that time that took place. And that's why people were not too sure if it's a local tribunal, would it bring justice, or would it be used to make people busy in attending hearings and not be able to have the legitimacy to stand for 2012. The Hague is a long process. It will not be politicized locally, and that's why the people decided to do that. I think the vote in Parliament portrayed the mood of the country. And we have our own problems in terms of mobilizing Parliament. And the new culture of Parliament is whoever is in government has to be hit and brought down. And that is dangerous because we still need to have government, we still need to have leaders, and we still need to serve the people.
At the end of the day, Mheshimiwa, the Hague option, why do you think so many MPs voted for that? Is it because they have more faith in a Mzungu type system of judiciary and less faith in a local judiciary? What was it?
First of all, the local tribunal is not about a Mzungu and a Kenyan. It's a combination of both, have international experts with integrity and also would not be swallowed or sucked into our tribal ethnic problems. So it is not a local per se. It's a mixture of commissioners from international community, and also the prosecutor is from outside the country. So in terms of justice, personally, I believe it will be appropriate. But where people were worried of the past commissions and the past also findings, no action was taken. And that is what they did not have enough confidence with the local issues here. To me, I see that we have hit hard on the judiciary because it has let us down many times. Unfortunate, we have not taken action on the judiciary. If we Kenyans, majority, feel there's a problem with the judiciary, I think the leadership of the country needs to squarely address those issues and bring back confidence of the judiciary by truly, we don't start with the little people, you start from the top. And leadership is always from the top and has to be always from the front. And these are the things that matters very much with the people.
And clearly leadership in this country is very lacking at this time.
I think we have leaders, but because they are all confined to their tribal cocoons, it becomes very difficult to be able to know who is the right leader. Because sometimes you look at leaders per region, and that's why we need generational change, people like us who are not contaminated with tribal politics or ethnic politics. And we need to come out from this disease that says, I don't care, Jeff, what tribe you are. I respect you, I can be a family friend of yours, we can be close, our children can intermarry, and I have no problem. But the minute we look at it with suspicion, these are the dangers that we are perpetuating for this country. And that's why a clear leader is not coming out, because we still are contaminated with the ethnicity game. And our politics is purely ethnicity.
But Mheshimiwa, that's what really disappoints me about ODM, because it started with the most amazing intentions. You had people from all over the place, the Pentagon, Coast, Western, Eastern, Nyanza, Rift Valley. You covered the country. And you all spoke as one. Now, Pentagon too seems to have come undone. Less than a year.
It's unfortunate. Pentagon gave the face of Kenya. Pentagon was the spiritual leadership that could gag and know and feel the country at large, and also direct the captain. Unfortunate, that is no longer there. I don't think there's Pentagon anymore. I think Pentagon is dead. What is available now is triangle, a three-legged stool, which that's why we are losing direction. The issue of Pentagon was not being an organ in the constitution. It was literally bringing some spiritual leadership. And it worked. If it worked then, why can it work now? Because there were the checks and balances that were appropriate. It is so sad that the hopes that ODM and the hope that the coalition government has given, people now out there, they feel let down. They're in a state of despair, which is dangerous. And that's why I came out this weekend to say that we should take action and call a spade a spade. I look at my own constituency as a small constituent. If corruption in my constituency is rewarded through the local leadership, then there is a major problem, because if corruption is done there and the top leadership is not acting on that corruption, as little as it is, for our constituents is a grand corruption on our level. But action is not taken. We are rewarding corruption by actually rewarding and compensating big tycoons who are being branded to be corrupt. And these are the dangers that we have. Unfortunate. Even when I look at Vision 2030, are we going to achieve it? I don't think so. I'm sorry, I'm in government, I believe in government policy, but until we start changing the system at the local level, then this great idea on the top can trickle down to the local leadership and be able to bring that change. The minute we work in an ivory tower as a few so-called changed leaders and we don't change the local authorities, then we have a problem.
Oshimi, I want to talk more about that. You made some very good points, and you talked about branding. I want to talk about branding Kenya. You're the man responsible for branding Kenya, and you're doing it right now. You were at the inauguration on January 20th in Washington, D.C. We want your thoughts on that. First, we'll take a break. My guest today, I told you it's getting warm on the bench, and it's only Monday. Vita Member of Parliament, Minister for Tourism, Najib Balala, has come out swinging. And he's calling a spade, even within his own ODM. He says, it is time. This is not the time to go back into your tribal cocoons. Time to act is now. What a show. You cannot get this kind of stuff anywhere else but on Capital Talk. So stay with us. We are back in a moment. Welcome back to Capital Talk. It's getting hot on this bench and it's only Monday. My guest, the Minister for Tourism, Mvita Member of Parliament, Najib Balala, this past weekend came out guns blazing, asking the President, the Prime Minister, to sack any ministers, any cabinet minister who's involved in corruption. Nobody has made such a strong statement against one of their own, and that's what we're talking about. So, Mheshimiwa, do you think it will work? Do you think this grand coalition will work? Because you guys start off with the best of intentions. It's coming undone. It's coming undone within ODM. PNU is still out there, blindly, trying to find some light somewhere. Doesn't seem like this thing's going to last till 2012.
What choice do we have? What I want to say that it should work for the sake of the country. For one single major promise, deliver a new constitution. We have, all of us as Kenyans, need to make sure this government works to deliver a new constitution, so that we can remove the bone of contention of bad governance and actually of bad leadership.
Your own Prime Minister, your own captain promised the new constitution in a year. It's almost a year.
Well, yes, the reality of government is different. But I believe let's all put our efforts together to be committed to that new constitution. But yes, we as a government, we are undergoing turbulences now. What we need to do is just withdraw, do soul searching, put the framework or the framework right of what we want to do and where we want to do. It is not to be seen to be a Raila agenda or a Kibaki agenda. It should be all of us together. And that's what we need, some soul searching, so we can put this country right.
You mentioned the Obama factor. You were at the inauguration on January 20th. What was the feeling like? We saw it all on TV and it was unbelievable. You were on the ground on that mall in Washington.
It was highly inspirational. It was, you see this young Kenyan, so-called Kenyan, we want to possess him. We know he's an American. But you see this young man that gives hope to the world. He addressed every community, every sector that felt they were marginalized. Palestinians, Israelis, the Muslims, the Christians. He addressed his own people about the crisis, the financial crisis. Everything he addressed. And I was standing there in the mall and literally thinking, are we going to have an Obama in Kenya? And when? And that was my question. And it was about few things. It's about honesty, integrity, and hard work. And if we keep these values on us, I look at us, what is pulling Kenyans to their country? I see very little. Because politically, we are moved with our political tribes, or tribal politics, and we don't have anything rallying behind. That's why some people, when they're in danger, they can run to their tribes in both angles. And we can say, no. Can we have some new rallying calls to say, this is the country we want? I believe we wanted to do it last week when we had this big conference, but I'm not too sure if it's captured. Okay, it came at the wrong time where we are highly depressed and we are in a state of despair, so we want to create hope. But We can only do that when we take action categorically so that we show leadership and actually we put things right from the beginning.
When you looked at that young man you were talking about, when you looked at President Obama that day, did you say, look, we can do this? What does he have that we don't have? 2 years ago, nobody knew who this man was. Suddenly he's risen. Don't we have an individual, in 38 million people in this country, don't we have that one person who can turn this country around?
I believe we have. It's not an angel. It's not a miracle to make it happen. No. But we are used to look at the big names, at the top political elite, people who have money, and we don't want to care. We care less about where did they get this money. But sometimes, let's reflect properly and say, is the political leadership of this country reflect the people themselves? When it comes to politics on the ground, we want handouts for us to vote for the person. Yeah? I would have lost my constituency because I didn't have the muscle, the financial muscle to win the elections. But I had the integrity. And in my constituency, my people have recognized that integrity, hard work, and honesty. And this have made me won the second time. And it was tough, but I won it with a landslide. And that's why I said, we have those people in this country. I think also we need to tell Kenyans to start standing up for what they believe in. As much as we have a problem of political leadership, if we don't stand up as other Kenyans, then those political leaders who we claim to be corrupt, they will take over this country and run it and mess it for our sake.
What do you tell those critics of yours, Mheshimiwa, who say, look, at the inauguration, you also took a couple of your councillors, you took family members who, it's a conflict of interest. What do you tell those people?
Let me correct you, Jeff. In the inauguration in Washington, I didn't take any of my family members, and I didn't take any of my councillors. The issue of councillors came in Masai Mara when we went to visit the president. Well, it was a plan to promote Masai Mara and profile it, but then the president came in. And this is a president of the republic, and here, there are politicians coming in. There were 50 councillors. 5 are from my constituency. What's wrong in that?
1/10.
5 out of 50 councillors were from my constituency. Nothing wrong. I am a young father. I like to travel with my boys, my children. And they share the same room that I share. So what other additional expenditure does it have? So I don't think it's a crime. But these are the things that they want to peddle and brand people negatively. And here, they forget the grand corruption and they look at such behaviors of goodwill and actually sharing the country's wealth with the grassroots leadership. And that's why I brought my councillors in Masai Mara.
Bottom line, Mheshimiwa, it's obvious that the Pentagon has isolated you, more and more pushed you out. Maybe this is the moment, Mheshimiwa, this is the moment you can say, you know what, it's going to take someone from the non-majority of Kenya's tribes, ethnic groups, to rise up. And you have a lot of experience. From way back in your early 20s, you were into politics. You knew you had this dream, you knew you had this goal. There's a moment, and you've talked about the moment. The moment's going to come when leadership is going to have to be called upon. And you could be that person that this country needs, devoid of ethnicity, tribalism, corruption, all these things, ills that we talk about. You could be that guy.
And there are also many more Kenyans who have the same conviction like mine, and we could be a small critical mass. Yes, that's why I spoke up this weekend. Yes, I believe there are Kenyans who can bring this change. And we change the so-called big names every day. That's why I say, it's not the muscle of money, how much you have, it's what you stand up for. And that's what I'm calling for. So we need to start leading from the front. Yes, I have a dream. Yes, I have an ambition. Yeah, but it's not about me. It's about the country. And that's why when I stood up for presidency and then we worked together to make one of us to stand there, it was about a collective ideal. And ideals and ideologies that we want to bring this change. Unfortunately, the reality of life is as it is. It doesn't matter if I'm in Pentagon, I'm out of Pentagon, I'm in government or out of government. My conviction will always be there, and I will always stand at the right time for the right things.
At the end of the day, Mheshimiwa, despite the ghost, or despite the group of 16 or however many they are going to The Hague, the ghosts of the post-election have to be put to rest. In other words, the people who torched those houses and the churches, the people who killed and raped and maimed and destroyed lives, they're still living out there. They're still out there, still, going about their everyday business. They still need to be.
There are two things here, Jeff. First, there is the criminal aspect and the legal aspect, and then there's the political aspect and the democratic aspect. And because we had an institution that let us down, the Electoral Commission, and the institutions to protect democracy were very weak, then people took law in their hands, and it's unfortunate. But there are people who stood in the streets, like myself, who went protesting, upholding democracy. And there are people who went planning for both rigging and planning for both killing. We need to bring these people to book. I don't care, is it The Hague, is it Nairobi, is it Arusha, but the most important thing, the culture of impunity, both in the criminal activity that took place in January and February, but also the culture of impunity, of corruption that are going without proper action to be taken. Culture of impunity is not about just crime by killings. It's about the whole behavioral change. That's why when we said we want to brand this country, it's not just about putting a label there. It's about a rallying call that all we believe in and all we make it happen together. And these are the things that change of attitude, change of behavior, change of ethics. But if this framework is not there, then we have a problem.
We still have that window, Mheshimiwa?
I want to be hopeful. Yes, we have many Kenyans in this country that believe in the right change, and we believe to bring this country to make it even better. Unfortunately, they are not given the coverage they deserve, or the publicity through the media, or they don't have the completed what it takes to be where we are today. But I believe there are many Kenyans, including in Parliament and outside Parliament. There are many Kenyans in Parliament. Now we are building a caucus within Parliament of young, like-minded leaders who, their life is not about greed. Their life is not about tribe. And there's some talk and forming new caucuses in Parliament. I want to be optimistic. Yes, we are there, and we are going to bring change.
And yes, we can.
And yes, we can.
Mheshimiwa,
thank you.
As always,
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Keep talking.
Thank you.
Minister of Tourism Najib Balala has come out swinging, guns blazing. He's sticking his neck out, even against his own. He says, Pentagon or no Pentagon, someone has to speak up. Good grief, and it's only Monday. Wow, what a guest, what a show, what a week it's going to be. You can only get that kind of stuff right here on Capital Talk, only on the award-winning station, K24, where we are all Kenyan.
All the time.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Capital Talk is recorded at the Fairview Hotel, the country hotel in town.